My room is echoey again because my life is a disaster, but I mean, the show must go on. It's the last character of this story. I can do it, I can make the video. Hopefully. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. Holy crap, last character of this story. It's pretty crazy. I'm really excited to share him with you, so I won't make this intro too long, but as always, since he is the last character of this story, there are 5 videos about this story that you should probably watch before you watch this one, because in this video I'm going to be referencing those. I'm going to be talking as if you know about those characters and about the story already, so I'll leave a playlist of my character profile video stuff thing in the iCard for you to check out. This story starts with Ellie and then every character underneath, so feel free to go watch all of those and then come back here when you're ready. But yeah, second last video of the year. Let's get to it. So here's Felix. His name is Felixs Farley. He is 23 years old and he uses he, him pronouns, and he's an ambivert, kind of. I would say that he's a little bit more on the introverted side, but he still has a little bit of extrovertedness within him. And I mean, considering who his 2 closest friends are, he would kind of have to have that. And speaking of his 2 closest friends, he is best described as Ash and Nicolette's voice of reason. The 3 of them are a bit of a trio, and we'll get into that a little bit more later, but they're both very chaotic. He is the one not chaotic person, and he's probably the reason that both of them are still alive. He is not impulsive like Ash and Nicolette. He is not hot-headed like Ash. And he is very much the calm and collected type of person that Ellie wishes she was. Ellie kind of tries to put on a persona of having a calm and collected person, but if you know her for even 5 minutes, that very quickly fades away. He is like that calm and collected type of person, and there are very few things that faze him. He's just really unfazed and unbothered by most things, and it's probably because his 2 closest friends are Ash and Nicolette. He's known Ash for a few years at this point, and he has known Nicolette almost his whole life. And so when you have those 2 around you all the time, you kind of learn to just have a lot of patience and have a high tolerance for bullshit, I guess. In Nicolette's video, I mentioned that she gives nicknames to everybody, and Felix does have one. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? Are you ready? Ever since they were children, she's called him Fifi. But if anybody else calls him that, hands will be thrown. Only she's allowed to call him that. Ash sometimes calls him that to get on his nerves, and then hands are thrown. He, on the outside, seems pretty cold, and a lot of people just assume that he's like rude and doesn't really care, but he's actually he's actually quite nice, and I wouldn't describe him as like having a secret soft side. I guess the best way I can explain that is to compare him to Ellie. I wouldn't say that Ellie's soft side is exactly a secret, because she's sometimes pretty bad at hiding it. The difference between them is that Ellie wants to give off this persona that she's like big and tough and like calm and collected, but the truth is she does have that secret soft side, and she doesn't want people to know about it. Whereas Felix, that is just his personality, and he's not afraid to show people that. It's just that his appearance can kind of make people not expect that from him. Like, it's not something that he tries to hide, and it's not something that he's embarrassed about, and it's not something that he tries to keep a secret. And if you know him for even a little bit, you'll know that it's not really a secret soft side. He just has resting bitch face, and so people assume him to be that way, but he's not. Quick little reminder of their whole world and story for anyone who needs a little bit of a refresher. And this is your last chance. Go watch those other videos if you haven't seen them. Please, I'm begging you. In this universe, there is the magical realm and the non-magical realm. And in the magical realm, it is their goal to take over the non-magical realm. But there are gates separating them to prevent that from happening. Ellie and Ash were the guardians of said gates, but they didn't exactly do a good job of making sure they stayed closed. And so now the magical realm is seeping into the non-magical realm. Shit's going crazy. It's not a great time. It's not a good time to live in their world. And so Ellie and Ash, with the help of this fucking circus of characters, they are trying to undo their mistakes and close the gates to the magical realm and make shit not go crazy like it has been. Felix is the second character in the story who is a non-magical user, and physically he is the strongest out of all of the cast. He is very much a fighter. There are 6 main characters in this story, and I would say not ranked in any specific order, but the 3 who do the most fighting are Ellie, Ash, and Felix. And then Nicolette does the least amount of fighting, and then Sylvester and Rosalie are somewhere in the middle. But yes, he is very, very much a physical fighter. And before Ash started working with Ellie again to try and close the gates, him, Rosalie, Nicolette, and Felix all sort of held the fort down in this specific town. They would just try and, like, keep the chaos at bay, I guess. And him and Nicolette were actually the ones who started that little group. Him and Nicolette were kind of doing that on their own, and then later on when they met Ash and Rosalie. I mean, things didn't go great at first. He liked Rosalie because most people do upon meeting her, but he could not stand Ash. And it's not really because of his personality, surprisingly. He does have a very loud personality, and he can be kind of obnoxious. I was gonna say to people who don't know him, but even to people who know him. But when you get to know him, it's more in like a charismatic way, I guess, whereas if you don't know him super well, it can just be kind of annoying and off-putting. But since him and Nicolette are pretty similar, and Felix has known Nicolette since they were kids, he didn't really have a problem with Ash's personality, and he wasn't put off by that. And at first, they got along pretty well, but then it came out that Ash was a magic user. After they found out that Ash was the guardian, Nicolette was more of the mindset of, well, I guess not all people who use magic are bad because you're pretty cool. But Felix did a complete 180 and just hated him. They didn't get super close before this, but he did not like Ash. I'm not gonna go into his super tragic anime backstory about why he had that resentment to magic users and just all things from the magical realm. And I'm also not going to spoil how all of that changed, but just long story short, they're amazing friends now. They get along really great. And then after they became friends, Ash and Rosalie joined Felix and Nicolette in protecting their little town thing. It's a town. I don't know why I called it a town thing. Both before the course of the story and after, when they start working with Ellie again to try and shut the gates, most of his job is sticking with Ash. The two of them work pretty well together, and he really just is there to keep Ash on track. Most of the time, Rosalie tries to be the one to do that because she does it in a more kind way, I guess. But Felix is not afraid to yell at Ash and keep him on track with force and aggression. But since him and Ash are also both fighters, they tend to go into things together. And even though now him and Ash are pretty tight, he is not really fond of Ellie. He does put up with her for the sake of Ash. I mean, Ash doesn't, Ash and Ellie fight all the time too. But if it weren't for Ash trying to work with her to close the gates, he would have literally nothing to do with her. And I guess the gist of the reason why he doesn't like her is that she's fake and mean. That's the best way I can describe it. The main reason is that she just tries to be someone she's not, I guess. Instead of just letting that softer side of her come out, she tries to put on that like calm and collected persona. But then also, that said, given that she isn't that calm and collected person and she actually has a bit of a temper, she can come off as just pretty mean to a lot of people. He doesn't like her because she's not true to herself, but then he also doesn't like her because she's kind of an ass. So he's cool with everyone else in the story. Confused by Sylvester, but like, who isn't, you know? So I'm sure you can imagine whenever Ash and Ellie get into a fight, whose side Felix is on. But there we go. That's about all there is to know, at least for now, for Felix and how he fits into the story and all of that. So I am going to move on to the Q&A section, and my god, half of the comments were either just saying that he's hot or asking if he's into bondage. So you guys made it really hard for me to actually get questions for this video. Thanks for that. I mean, it was really funny, but like, I have a video to film, guys. You guys yell at me for being horny on main, but you guys are not any better. But as usual, I post a picture of the monthly character to Instagram, and I leave that post up for 24 hours. While that post is up, you guys comment down any questions that you have about that character, and I answer them here, or as many of them as I can. But to kick things off, we have our 3 traditional questions. Of course, he does not have a birthday or a zodiac sign. And unlike some of the characters in the story, I actually don't have any idea for what he should be. My knowledge of zodiac signs are very limited, so feel free to leave your comments down below. Does he prefer ice cream cake or cookie cake? Cheesecake? I hate cheesecake, but Felix likes cheesecake. And lastly, use a vine to describe him.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'm not even worried about it.
So, immediately right off the bat, most of the comments were about his belts in his harness. Do the belts have a purpose? A lot of people were asking if there's like a practical reason, or if he's just kinky. But putting possible kinkiness aside, it's mostly for a design choice. I'm gonna be completely honest. I knew when I designed him, I wanted to have a character with a harness and I wanted to have a character with a headband. So that's where all of this started. And just like his belts, his headband does absolutely nothing. It doesn't keep his hair out of his face. Maybe as I continue working on this story, I will find a purpose for them, but for now, it's just mostly aesthetics. If he saw a stray kitten, would he adopt it? He wouldn't, but he would definitely help the cat. If he found a stray kitten, he would like take it off the streets and then like give it a bath and all of that stuff and then like find a good home for it, but he wouldn't keep it because he's not impulsive. If it was Ash or Nicolette, both of them absolutely would, because they're very impulsive. I guess on a similar note, if he owned a pet, what would it be? Funnily enough, a cat. He's a big cat person. So he would own a cat, just not impulsively. What's his sense of humor like? It's very dry and sarcastic with a hint of smartass sprinkled in there. He definitely likes to tease the people that he's close with, but it's like because he has more of a dry and sarcastic type of humor, it's a fine line between like teasing and like bullying. But the people closest to him know that that's just how he is and he's not trying to be a jerk. So what's his type of fighting style? At this point, I'm pretty undecided on like a specific one because I know different types of fighting styles have like a different focus, I guess would be the best way I can describe it. Some of them are more focused on strength, some of them are more focused on self-defense, some of them are more focused on like throwing off your opponent. I haven't had the time yet to like do research into a bunch of different fighting styles, but his is one that's more like strength based. Definitely something more on just like the brute strength type of side. Something that doesn't have like a lot of strategy to it, I guess. He's definitely less of like a strategic fighter and more of a just throwing down fighter, I guess you could say. Continuing with the fighting questions, if he could own any one weapon, what would he choose? Honestly, probably just his fists, but he does use weapons. I would describe him as being like a jack of all trades with weapons, but a master of very few. He knows how to use a wide variety of weapons like efficiently enough. He definitely prefers stuff that's much more close range. And so I guess those are the weapons that he's better at using just because he tends to gravitate towards those more. How tall is he? These characters don't have specific heights. I picture him being around 6 feet tall, and in centimeters, that's about 183 centimeters. So he's on the taller side. Sylvester is the tallest character, but Felix is the second tallest. So many people really want to know, is he single? And what's his sexuality? He is single. All of his characters are single. I've said that before, but y'all just really want to know. And everyone wants to know his sexuality, but I mean, bold of you to assume he knows his sexuality. Do Ash and Nicolette flirt with him, or is he off limits? Nicolette doesn't flirt with him, mostly because like they've known each other almost their whole lives, and they just don't really see each other that way. But Ash, though, absolutely flirts with him, and he is absolutely not off limits to Ash. Ash flirts with most people, but just like Nicolette, Felix knows that that's just how Ash is. At first he was like, what are you doing? But now he's just like, whatever, this is just Ash. How often does he fight with other characters? He seems kind of hot-headed. He isn't hot-headed, but he definitely looks that way to a lot of people, and again, I think that's what a lot of people expect him to be like. He definitely fights with Ellie the most, but he never really picks the fight. It's usually Ellie who like, her temper is so short, and so it's usually her like getting mad at him, and then he just fights back. He doesn't really pick a lot of fights. I guess he fights fairly often, but only with Ellie. What's his opinion on children? He's very awkward around children. If you're asking about whether or not he would like children in the future, the answer is no. And whenever he's around a child, he just doesn't know what to do. He gets kind of awkward and like stiff and weird, so... But on the opposite end of the spectrum, Rosalie and then Nicolette are both very good with kids. Ash thinks he's good with kids, but he's not. Felix isn't good with kids, but he knows it. So if he's ever given the option to not interact with the child, he will take that option. What's his relationship like with his parents? Again, I'm not going to get into his tragic anime backstory. His relationship with his parents was good. They don't fight, they don't not get along, but it was good. And I'll leave it there. How do you choose his color palette, and what was the inspiration for his design? Great job, Oliver. So, Felix was by far the hardest character for me to design in this little batch of characters. Like I said, I knew I wanted a harness and I knew I wanted a headband, but those are the only two things I could think of, and I had a really hard time making it look good. Because with the specific type of headband I wanted to give him, I had a hard time making his hair fit with that. Him, Ash, and Nicolette are a little bit of a trio, so I wanted them to have similar design elements. It was really easy to make Ash and Nicolette match together, but it was really hard for me to have similar design elements in Felix, which I guess makes sense because Nicolette and Ash are a lot more alike, but have fun spotting all of the design similarities between the three of them. But I had a really hard time with his hair, and I had a really hard time with his clothes. Since I did want to have that leather harness, I felt like the clothes had to be fairly simple, but I like adding a lot of details in my art, and so I kept wanting to add details, but then things would just look messy. And then I decided on adding more details to the harness itself, but then that left me with, well, what do I do with the clothes? How simple do the clothes need to be? And the color scheme is just, I like it. I pictured him with blue hair, the skin tone that he has, yellow eyes, and the harness was going to be black, and so that left very little options for the rest of his clothes. I figured a white shirt would look nice, and then blue pants, just because I hated the way everything else looked. Although I did make it a little bit more of a greeny blue. I didn't want him to be too similar to Sylvester, so Sylvester has more of like a pure blue. He has more of like a greeny blue. All of the characters' designs were, I don't want to say finalized because I'm open to like changing them in the future, but for the sake of this group of videos, all the character designs were finalized except for him. His was not finalized until around the time I posted Nicolette's video. Is he a himbo or nah? Generally, no. He does have his moments though. If we look at Ash, Nicolette, Felix, and Rosalie, Rosalie has most of the brain cells. Ash has no brain cells. Nicolette acts like she doesn't have any brain cells, but she's actually pretty smart. And so I would say Felix is about the same as Nicolette, but like maybe a little bit lower in terms of brain cell havage. It's not a word. It's not a thing people say. So he's not an idiot, but he definitely has his himbo moments. There are things that he is oblivious to, one of which is romance. I know people are going to ask about that since that's the hot topic of Felix. So that's something that Nicolette and Ash tease him about a lot. And lastly, what's it like getting all the bitches? Most of the time he doesn't notice the bitches being got. Like I said, he's pretty oblivious to romance, and finding a romantic partner isn't really on his priority list, so it's not something that he really pays attention to, which is probably one of the reasons why he's more oblivious to a lot of that. There are people who definitely like him. Ash gets upset when people pick Felix over him. Not like in a legitimate way, but in a very Ash way. There's Felix, and also the end of the story. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing this little world with all of you. It's not very often that I get to share a character for the very first time in OC videos, because I do share a lot of my characters, and a lot of my characters are older, so you guys have just naturally seen them through like sketchbook videos and stuff like that, and just whenever I post art anywhere. So it was really fun to be able to surprise you guys every month with a different character, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And that said, I would love to hear your guesses for what story I'm going to be talking about next, and also let me know what you thought of Felix and this story. I would just love to hear your thoughts, especially now that all of the characters are out, so let me know. But I think that's all I have for you for this video, so if you liked it, if you liked Felix, if you liked the story, give this video a thumbs up. Also feel free to let me know if you have any more questions about him or the world that they live in. I'm not going to be answering anything spoilery or I felt was already said in this video, as always, but I'm going to be answering them as much as I can within a reasonable amount of time, so. And if you are new here, hello, I am Oliver. You didn't listen to me. You didn't go watch the other videos. Thanks. I'm kidding. But my name is Oliver. I post a lot of art here on this channel. My posting schedule has been a little hectic as of late, but I'm hoping to get things more on track in the new year, so feel free to subscribe for hopefully a consistent uploading schedule again. But if you want to see more from me, you can follow me on social media. Those will be shown on screen now and linked in the description box below. Especially if you want to be a part of future OC videos, I would highly recommend following me on Instagram, since that is where I host the little Q&A thing. And if you want to see more of my videos, there will be some on screen now and linked in the iCard for you to check out if you want. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week, or later this week, depending on when this video goes up. Bye.